Hello, everyone. Sorry about the slightly delayed start to this webinar. We had a few technical issues, but hopefully we're here with you now. Welcome to this TEFL org webinar, this Friday lunchtime UK time. My name is Carl. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. We often get people from quite far away from where I am. I'm in Northern Ireland at the moment. So please put in the chat a hello, tell us where you're from, tell us what your stage is on your TEFL teaching career journey, however you want to call it. I can see some hellos in there already. Hello, Ed in Spain. Oh, I bet it's lovely in Spain this time of year in September. Granada's beautiful as well. So please say hello. Let me know where you are in the world. Let me tell you a little bit about me, because I'm asking about you. It's only fair if I tell you about me. My name's Carl. I do these Friday lunchtime webinars for TEFL org, and I am one of the trainers on the weekend courses that are currently not running in Northern Ireland, but have started up again in England, because in the United Kingdom we have different rules depending on what part of the UK you're in. So currently I'm not doing the weekend courses in Northern Ireland, but I hope to be doing them soon. I'm originally from London. I've been teaching around 15 years, let's go for that, in various places around the world. I've taught in Vietnam, Japan, China, Kazakhstan, Sri Lanka, Azerbaijan, Iraq, taught a bit in South Africa. I've also taught in the UK in various different roles, and I currently work as an examiner and as an online teacher. So I'm an examiner, and that's what today's talk is going to be about, basically, English language exams. So while this talk has the general theme of the English language exams, I don't want it to just be about that if you have other questions. So please, I can see some hellos in there. Hi, Stephanie, Northern Ireland. Where are you? I'm in Bangor. Yasmin, hello in Istanbul. Love that place. Odette, Portugal. Oh, everybody, I'm so jealous where everyone is. Joseph in a place that I can't pronounce. Krasnoyarsk in Russia. I bet Russia's quite nice in September, I think, isn't it? Jenna in England, sorry, and Lucy in Croydon. Okay, hello. Sorry, you're not in a more exotic place. Maybe you want to be, maybe you don't. Vicky in Cyprus. Hello, good. And Sue Jingmin in the Czech Republic. Hello. So, although this topic is about exams, and I can see there that Ed's already said that he's doing some English exams teaching. Any questions you have about TEFL at all, about teaching online, about teaching abroad, about any of the courses that we offer, perhaps you're thinking about getting into English language teaching, then please pop them in the chat, and I would definitely try and answer them. If I don't know the answer, Alan, who is monitoring the chat, will probably know the answer, because he's much more on top of the courses and that kind of thing than I am. So why have we at TEFL org decided to talk about English exams today? The reason being is because probably, I would say almost definitely, on your English teaching life, you will eventually have to teach some sort of exam preparation classes. Now, there are lots of different exams in this beautiful world of ours. You may have heard of some of them. You may not have heard of them, okay, because you're quite new, all right? IELTS, the International English Language Testing System, IELTS, is probably the most taken exam in the world for English language, okay? They are taken, I think it's about 3.5 million times a year. So that's not necessarily 3.5 million different people that take the exam, because some people might take it more than once, but 3.5 million people around the world take just the IELTS exam. Now, there's also other exams. There's Trinity exams. They tend to be spoken and listening exams, but there is also a reading and a writing aspect to that as well. Trinity exams, they're taken a lot around Southern Europe. They're taken increasingly more in China. and in Latin and South America, there is the TOEFL exams, TOEFL, taken a lot in East Asia, quite often in Japan, for example, people want to take that. There's also the Cambridge set of exams as well, which are taken again a lot in Europe. So there's lots of different types of exams. So if you're going to be teaching any exams, please let me know in the chat the type of exam you're going to be teaching. Okay, because then I can try and maybe give you a few tips for that kind of thing. Okay, remember, any questions at all, guys, I'm more than happy to say and answer them. Stephanie in Bangor too, isn't it a lovely day here today? Laura, Bournemouth can be exotic. Amar in Saudi Arabia. Laurie, hello in Tuscany. Bridget in Zimbabwe, hello again. Joe in Devon. Vicky, so you're looking at getting more experience in IELTS. Alan, perhaps we can highlight that just to get us started there. Okay, so Vicky Kelso, I'm interested in getting more experience in IELTS. Okay, that's an interesting one. If you're a new teacher and you want to try and get some experience of teaching exams, I would try and go down the IELTS route first, because that's probably the exam where there's the most amount of work. It's also the exam where you will want to you'll probably be offered those sort of classes. Now, if I was new to teaching IELTS, what the first thing I would do would be to take the test myself. Okay, now I'm not saying necessarily pay to do the test, because that's about 150 quid, I think it is. But you know, you can download or you can buy practice IELTS tests. So there's a reading test, a writing test, a listening test. There's also a speaking test. Okay, speaking test might be a bit more difficult for you to do yourself, but it is something that you need to know about. And the first thing you need to work out is the type of questions that there are. What are the different types of reading, the different types of listening, the different types of writing, and what are the three parts of the speaking test? There's lots of websites out there that can help you this. I don't want to go into talking about the intricacies of the IELTS test, but if I was a teacher, the first thing I'd do would be to learn about the test, learn about the time limits, learn about the different types of questions, that kind of thing, so you are aware yourself of the different ones. The similar thing goes for all the other tests. So for Cambridge or for Trinity or any of those things. Okay. So familiarize yourself with it. Then what you will probably decide to do is teach the parts of the test in two different ways. You'll either try and teach them individually. So today we'll do a reading lesson, a writing lesson, a listening lesson, or a speaking lesson. Okay. Or you might go down the way of teaching it as a theme. So you might say, okay, today's topic is education. This is a listening about education. This is a reading about education. This is a speaking about education. This is a writing about education. And then that way you can work on vocabulary within that aspect, like that. So that you've got to kind of decide then how you want to do it. Is one better than the other way of teaching it? I don't think there necessarily is. Quite often students prefer to have the reading, writing, speaking, and listening separate, so they can concentrate just on that one skill. You will find textbooks tend to do it by theme. So you'd have a chapter on education, you might have a chapter on law, you might have a chapter on economics, whatever it might be. Okay, so that's what I would look at if I was doing IELTS. I would first of all get myself familiarized to the test, then start to think, how would I teach it, either by skill or would I teach it by theme? Okay, good. Right, I'm going to stop there and just answer. I can see a couple of questions. Let's see. I thought there was one at the top. No, there wasn't. Okay, so there's a question there from Fazzy. Hello. Hi. Is TEFL graduate part of your organization? Right, Fazzy, there are lots of different websites that offer TEFL qualifications. We are TEFL.org. We are very much accredited. What that means is that people have checked us to make sure that we are a legitimate organization that offers good quality courses. We are accredited by different bodies that are external to us. So a body, an education body will come in, they will check me, they will check all our materials, they will check our pricing, all that kind of thing to make sure that we are offering a good course. TEFL graduate, I'm unaware of. They might be accredited, they might not be. Fazzy, don't necessarily go for the cheapest one. Look for that accreditation because that's how you're going to get the job. Okay, good. Laurie, hello. Hi again. I'm trying to find somewhere some kind of lesson plan to determine the level of a new student. Any clue? Right. Okay, so what you're looking at there is you're looking for a level test. You're not really, I don't think you're necessarily looking for a lesson. Okay, a lesson would be sort of the stages of what you teach and how you teach in a certain way. Okay, how do we determine the level of a new student? We give them a little test. And if you've got time, that usually consists of a small reading test. So you would give them a little text that you found, or you can find online. There are people on companies online that have level tests. The students read a little passage. You ask them some questions, 10 questions, for example. If they've got six right, then they're intermediate level. The test will tell you the numbers. If they've got 9 right, then they are advanced level, whatever it might be. If they've got 2 right, that there'll be a beginner, elementary, whatever the test rubric the number in adds up to per level. So you would do a reading test, and you might do a listening test. Then you would maybe then start look at the productive skills. So there's a speaking test. So you would start with simple questions. Hello, what's your name? And if they can answer that kind of thing through to things like, what do you usually do on your day? And then you start to get more complicated through to things like, if you won $1 million, what would you do? Intermediate questions. Then you might go through to advanced questions, and you would say something like, what is the biggest economic issue facing your country? Something a bit out the box where they got to think. If they can handle each of those questions, as soon as they start getting stuck, their grammar goes a little bit crazy, they haven't got a very good range of vocabulary, then you kind of stop and you think, that's the level that I'm at. Similar thing with writing. You give them some sort of essay question, and then you mark them usually on their vocabulary use, their grammar use, answering the question, that kind of thing. And you would do that individually for the student. You wouldn't necessarily do it as a lesson, Laurie. I'm going to scroll down to see if that is what you're looking for. I can't see anything there, but that's what Google level tests, LEVEL, ESL, EFL level tests. See what you can do there. Okay, good. I hope that's answered your question. Right, Megan Cartridge has given me a lovely long question that I'm sure is not going to fit on the screen. I'm just reading down. Right, okay, so this is basically about working in Japan with no degree on a working holiday visa. Okay, right. Okay, so last Friday I did a lovely long webinar on teaching in Japan, and it lasted almost about an hour. I covered a lot of this, Laurie. Sorry, Megan. So it might be worth looking back a week to see. Teaching in Japan, 2 different ways basically of doing it. If you've got a degree, go down the work visa way. Try and get yourself a job while you're here. So you look online, look for recruiters that are trying to get you to go to Japan. You fill in the form, you have an interview via Skype, all that kind of thing. You get your documents together. If you're successful, you take them to the Japanese embassy, you get your visa, you fly to Japan, hunky-dory, everything's fantastic. If you don't have a degree, it is slightly different. One of the options is to get a working holiday visa. So these are like the schemes that happen in Australia and New Zealand, and I think in Canada. I'm not quite sure where there's working holiday visas, but definitely Australia and New Zealand. Whereas they don't care on your qualification levels. All they want you to do is go to that country and work. So if you've got a partner that doesn't have a degree, but you do have a degree, Megan, they could go in on that working holiday visa. Right. But then you've kind of got the issue where if you're going as a partnership, you want really them to work in the same place as you do, because that way you'll work similar hours. In Japan, one of the problems you got is people work long hours, and therefore you might be working mornings, they might be working evenings, vice versa. You might not spend that much time. You might be working Saturdays, they might not be working Saturdays. You might be off Sundays, they are working Sundays. Japan is 24/7 basically English teaching. So you would have to research whether the company that's given you with the degree the job, do they also take on people with working holiday visas? If they do, happy days. If they don't, then that could be an issue. You might find it easier to both fly out there, both on working holiday visas, and try and work together then. Okay, it's possible, but the one with a degree, one without a degree does make it a little bit more difficult, but it is possible. Message me if you need any help. Okay, message the page and then we'll see if we can help you with that. But I would look back for last week where we talked a lot about Japan. Okay, Gabrielle, hello. I'd like to know how to correct the written parts in IELTS. Cheers. Thank you very much. Okay, right. How do you mark the written parts of IELTS? So there's two different aspects to the IELTS writing test. And that is then divided again into either general training or academic. So you need to know what, because the questions are different. You can Google that. It involves letters, graph descriptions, all that kind of thing. How do you correct them? Well, you correct writing on the IELTS similar to how you would correct writing normally. Okay, so the seen as the best way is to look at using the correction code. So if you see written, yesterday I eat a pizza, you know that there's something wrong there with the grammar. What's wrong with the grammar? Let me say it again. Yesterday I eat a pizza. It's the verb. There's a problem with the verb. What specifically is wrong with the verb? Verb tense. It should be the past. Yesterday I ate a pizza. So you would, above the writing, write VT in two little letters, just to show the student that they have made a verb tense mistake. You then say, right, okay, by next week, I'd like you to go through and correct all the mistakes. This will help you. So VT, verb tense, is one. PL, plural mistake. SP, spelling. If you put into Google EFL, ESL correction codes, you'll see loads and loads there like that. And you got it. That's how to correct their grammar. In terms of like correcting their score, you need to look at the descriptors yourself and see if you can not learn them, but work out yourself where you think that essay is in terms of each of the four descriptors. I hope that helps you, Gabrielle. Susie, I want to take some TEFL courses too to broaden my experience in teaching. Okay, Susie, let me just quickly give you a bit of help there. Susie, do you have the basic 120-hour course? That is the one I would go for first. If you don't have that, get that basic 120-hour certificate, because that's what recruiters look for. Okay. If you already have something like that, then I would recommend you go down the route of picking individual modules. So you can do modules on young learning. You can do modules on business English, I think, Alan. You can do different types of modules, and then you can broaden your experience by doing those individual modules to help you learn more. Okay, good. Vicky, hello. That's an interesting one. I already have a lot of experience in Cambridge and some in the military SLP. Now, I don't know what military SLP. I've never taught military English, but I'm not really sure how that works in terms of exams. But I that thing there, Trinity too. So Trinity are a type of exams that are very, very popular in Southern Europe. Okay, they tend to be spoken English exams. So an examiner would go and they would sit in front of the candidate, and they would get the candidate to, quite often the candidate has a bit more freedom than some of the other tests, so they can choose a little subject that the candidate wants to talk about. So kids often talk about, like, Trinity is also taken by kids as well as adults, whereas IELTS tends to be more adults. So if you are going to be teaching young learners, Trinity might be the way to go forward like that. Okay. they have different types of exams. So you would have to concentrate a lot more on speaking than you would with IELTS, where you have to talk a lot more about reading and writing, okay, and listening. Okay, I hope that helps you. Okay, good luck with that. I don't know about military English. Please tell me more about that in the chat. Okay, Joseph, you do not get a certificate from this webinar. Just seeing my lovely face should be enough for you. Just you know, you don't need the certificate to say that. Good. Any more questions? Hello, and love a long one. Ellie, hello. Hi. Any tips for helping a student prepare for the IELTS if you've never done so before? Where would you recommend starting? And do you know of any website that offer resources and information, or example IELTS exams? Many thanks. Yeah, Ellie, the official IELTS website, which is, I think, takeielts.org, would be your best place to start. There's lots and lots of websites that there's lots and lots of tests that you can download on there. There's also some tips for you to teach. There's lots of things like that. Okay, so I would start there for any websites. Okay, just, you know, there are hundreds of IELTS websites out there. Some are terrible, some are quite good. So look at ones that you think trust. Don't go with the ones that have the highest social media followers, because that's my opinion. Okay, so go for that. If you're new to it, the first thing you've got to do is to understand the test yourself, Ellie. You've got to understand, what do they need to get to the grade that they want? How do they get there? You've got to plan it. You've got to be realistic. So if they're doing your level test in their elementary and they're looking for IELTS 6.5, there's a big old gap to go there. It's going to probably take them a year, 18 months to get there. Be realistic. Don't go promising them, yet don't worry, we'll get you 6.5 by Christmas, because it's not realistic. Okay, so teach yourself. Make sure that you are understanding the test. Make sure you understand what they need to get to, and then you need to plan step by step. Right, okay, today we're going to do this vocabulary, tomorrow we're going to look at these types of questions, day after we're going to look at these types of reading questions. Okay, good. I hope that answers. Kathy, I just want to highlight that, just to confirm that Trinity has reading, writing, speaking, listening exams. You are correct. So there are two types of exams. There's the GESE exams, and then there is the ISE exams. Trinity, if you're doing the ISE, that covers the reading, writing, speaking, and listening. If you're doing the GESE, then on the lower levels, it's just speaking. As it gets a bit higher, it goes to listening. Okay. The Trinity exam is very important in Southern Europe, and quite often graduates need to have the Trinity exam in order to graduate. So they might have, this does depend on the university and does depend on the region of Spain, but very often the students do need to finish their subject major in art or physics, whatever it might be, and then do a Trinity exam. They have to get that at a certain level in order to get their certificate. So yes, does have reading, it does have writing, does have listening, but it depends on your students. If some are taking the ISE exam, you have to teach all four of these. If someone's taking the GESE exam, then you probably only have to teach the speaking and a bit of listening. Hope that's answered. Okay. Thank you very much, Vicky, for talking a little bit there about military English. That looks really interesting. Okay. So I've talked a little bit about IELTS. Familiarize yourself. Okay. Make sure that you understand the test. Make sure you've got an idea how to teach it. Try and get yourself a good quality textbook. Okay. That's what I would say. There are plenty out there. And then look at how does it teach it. Think about the level of your students that you're going for. Okay. If the students want to get IELTS 7, that's really quite a high level. Be realistic. Don't think that you can get someone that you think is about elementary or pre-intermediate to IELTS 7 quite quickly. They will expect that. Be realistic, okay? And then do it step by step, building on it each time. Lots and lots of productive activities, lots and lots of marking for you, lots and lots of error correction. Make sure that you're error correcting them accurately. Make sure that they are understanding where they're making the errors. Okay, good. So that's IELTS. Spoken a bit about Trinity. So let's talk about a couple of the other exams. So you then get speciality exams. Okay. And probably this after IELTS and after Trinity, you'd be looking at sort of, and then there's Cambridge. But for the speciality exams, you're probably looking at things like the Boulat's test, I think it is called, in business English. So some people might come to you and say, I want to do the business English test. Fine. Okay. What do you need to do? Similar idea. You need to familiarize yourself with the test. You need to familiarize yourself with what do they need to do in order to get the grade that they need. The grade they need. That's key. All right. Because you need to be able to teach to that grading in order to get there. Okay. So business English is one of them. You might get someone that wants to come and do a legal English test, a medical English test. There are OET, I think, is the medical English test. There are lots of people that want this. They can be quite difficult to teach. Why? Because you need to have a little bit of experience in that, not necessarily job experience, but you need to be able to know the vocabulary. You need to be able to know some of the ideas and the themes that are within that test. My most difficult class that I've ever taught in my life was a legal English class. I really had trouble learning this. I really had trouble learning the vocabulary around legal English. And I think my lack of understanding of it did hinder my teaching of it. So you do need to prepare yourself really well for each of those things. And you really have to make sure that you understand it. So business English, legal English, medical English. There's also some aviation English tests out there. Again, this is something that you need to know. Okay. Don't just say yes straight away to any job offer you've got that tells you about business English, or any job offer that tells you about legal English. So if they say, can you teach legal English? Yeah, of course I can. It's no problem at all. Think about realistically, how much strain is that going to put on you? Are you going to have to learn all this extra vocabulary that you didn't know before and just go down that route? Okay. And just see how you go with that one. All right. If a recruiter asks, can you teach IELTS? And you think, oh no, I don't want to teach IELTS, I would say you're limiting yourself. Okay. Why are you limiting yourself? Because there's a lot of classes out there that do that. They can also be some of the most interesting classes that you can teach. One of my favorite ever groups was a group of students in Iraq who needed to learn IELTS to quite a basic level in order to get out of Iraq, in order to go and study in America or go and study in the UK. Very, very fulfilling way of teaching. Okay, it can, if you get the students to that level, you get real benefits. Whereas if you're teaching general English, you tend to not really see much end product. They sort of, okay, they pass their pre-intermediate level 2, whatever it is, and then you do them pre-intermediate 3. How does that really benefit them? Whereas if you're doing some sort of teaching to a test, then you do get to see some end product that can really change their life. It can make them go on with their career. It can make them move to another country. It can, it can really help in some poor parts. It can really help the people to lift themselves and get themselves a new job, that kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to break there for a couple more questions. How can I teach Turkish speakers? What advice do you have for Turkish speakers taking IELTS? That's an interesting one. Okay, right. So when you are looking to teach an exam for a specific country, you got to remember that the test is universal. So how Turkish people pass or get the grade they want is the same as how Japanese people do, as Brazilian people do. Okay. What you need to be aware of are the common mistakes that Turkish learners make when speaking English generally. So I've not had much experience of teaching Turkish students. I'm sorry. So for example, I don't know, Turkish students, maybe they're not very good at making paragraphs because maybe Turkish doesn't have paragraphs. I'm making this up. I don't know anything about the Turkish language. I don't know anything about Turkish speakers, but you would think, okay, so in general, there's no paragraphs in Turkish. So let's they've got to learn a lot, spend a bit more time on paragraphs. Generally, Turkish students Turkish people are quite good at speaking, but maybe weaker on writing. So you got to spend more time on writing. If you put into Google Turkish people learning English problems, something like that, you'll see the common mistakes that Turkish people make. And then your job is to try and fix those grammar mistakes, those speaking mistakes. Okay, good. Julietta, hello. I'm doing the 120-hour TEFL course with TEFL.org, and so good so far. Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I have two questions for you. Which is the best way to teach listening online one-to-one? Okay, let's do that one before I do your second question. Right, right. Teaching listening online one-to-one. I'm not. Is it madly different from teaching English, teaching listening in a classroom? I mean, when I teach online, what do? I have shared documents and I have the MP3s ready and we work together. I teach them, okay, this is how you're going to approach this question. You're going to do this, you can do this. Okay, what do you have to do? They forward it back to me and go, okay, have you underlined the keywords, talking about exam questions, all that kind of thing? Are you ready? Have you predicted some of the answers? Fine. And you do that via Zoom. They might type that into a shared Word document, a shared Google document, something like that. Go, okay, right now we're going to listen to it, do the MP3. You sit there listening. They sit there listening, writing. You'll sit there, you check Facebook while they're doing that, whatever you might do. And then you go, you then go through the answers afterwards. You then go through the tape script. You can show that on your screen. You can get that up on an MP3. You can do all that kind of thing. And I don't think it's that much different, Julietta, from teaching normally, is it? I don't think so. Next bit, regarding the LinguaSkill examination, Cambridge, I couldn't find any book or proper material to prepare that exam. Any help? Wow. Okay. I don't know anything at all about the LinguaSkill examination. So I really don't know anything at all about that and about how it's taught. I'm sorry, I don't even know the exam. I'm sorry, I'm really going to be useless there, Julietta, and say I've got no idea about LinguaSkill. If anybody else has any ideas about LinguaSkill, then please just put them in there for Julietta. That is a completely new exam for me and not one that I've come across or one that I've asked to be taught before. I'm really sorry. Sorry, Julietta, you've got me there, and I could make something up, but that would not help anybody at all, will it? So thank you guys for listening to this webinar today about exams. Be open to teaching exams no matter what they are. Okay, you know, whether they're IELTS, whether they're Trinity, whether they're Cambridge. Okay, don't think that they're too difficult. There is more marking and in it, but I think there's probably slightly less preparation needed myself. Okay, so I would you know, don't worry too much about the extra work that might be involved with doing it. Go for it. It's something that's really, really useful. Be prepared. You know, you're going to get lots of questions about, is this going to be on the exam? What's on the exam? Be prepared to know the themes for your test. Be prepared to know the exam techniques for each type of question. Exam techniques tends to be the major thing you teach, really, more than teaching English, teaching grammar, that kind of thing. It's more the way that they are approach the exams and the way that they do it themselves. Okay, it's the Cambridge test, but it's done online. Okay, well, if it's just the Cambridge test normally, Julietta, then there's tons of websites out there, aren't there, for the Cambridge test? I'm sure there's loads of materials for that kind of thing. Okay, right, I think we've got a couple of questions coming in, and I'm just going to say goodbye for the day. Hello, Laurie. What are the best free video option to use? With Zoom over 40 minutes, you have to pay. Also sharing documents. Evernote has been mentioned, but again, it's not free after 7 days. It all adds up. It does indeed. Right, I use Skype, Laurie. Well, actually, that's not true. I do pay for Zoom. Okay, but before I went for the paid option on Zoom, I just used Skype. I didn't really see that as a problem. If you've got students that can't get Skype wherever they are in the world, ask them what they can use. So they might say something like, oh, we use WeChat, or we use Facebook Messenger, whatever it might be. And what you might do, and it's not ideal, I get that, okay, You might then be able to do the first lesson on that and show them why it's difficult, and then go down the route of showing them Skype or down the route of saying Zoom. I use Skype and I use Microsoft Teams. That's the best thing. Right. Shared documents. Just use a very basic Google document or use a very basic Microsoft Word shared document. Don't pay for anything for documents. Definitely go down the route of using the ones that are free to you. Okay. I would try Skype. Now, the only problem you've got is if you're teaching people in China. If you're teaching people in China, that can sometimes be an issue. But I would go down Skype. You can do Zoom if you do the Zoom website, the Chinese login instead of the worldwide login, and that way you can get around it with Zoom. Okay, Laurie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for today. I hope I can help. Thank you for your questions that came in. I hope it's been of some help to you today, this Friday. If you have any other questions, please contact us on the messenger. We're more than happy to answer anything. I hope you've had a good day, and I hope you have a good weekend. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for listening to me this Friday. I enjoy your day. Bye.